My name is Eeshta, and I am currently locked at home in New Delhi, in India, in my own home. The education industry has been quite evidently impacted in the sense that schools have been shut down. And so I'm going to choose to talk about education here, but schools are shut down. So I think education as we know it, as a space, as an industry where you enter a space to learn, that has been completely disrupted. Like, there are a couple of different impacts, right? Because there is government-led education, so public schools, public universities, and then there's private education. And then there is all other forms of education that are not non-formal. And I think that they're all going to be impacted quite differently because of differing resources. They're going to be different levels of impact. But the system itself already had multiple failures, multiple places that were collapsing. And I think what this pandemic has just done is brought that to light very visibly. For example, the complete lack of tools as well as mindsets to be learning from home and to be doing like self-paced, self-determined learning. Our systems have not prepared us for that. So this is a much larger thing that's just coming to light with this pandemic. So I think in terms of disruption, I think that what has happened is that we no longer can use the current paradigm of learning as the only form of learning. This kind of lifestyle, minus the backdrop of a global pandemic, has really been already center to my existence. And so I think mental health has been something that the issues with mental health have surfaced even for myself in these last 2 years, and they have of course got amplified in this period. And I think that's going to happen. So step one is knowing that it will happen primarily because we don't have as many sources of distraction as we normally do in life. And there's not much further we can run from things that have been surfacing internally, emotional triggers that have been lying around. And I think some of the things that come to my mind are finding time to meditate, which I think has been very helpful because it just gets you to like stop and slow down. Bigger than this for me is engagement. So like finding time to engage with people in a more real way. Talk to your friends or like the people closest to you, whoever it is, even if it's a stranger that you've made friends with online now and feels like the closest person. Talk to them about your fears, like be vulnerable. And the third for me is find community. I think what has been the biggest support for me in those 2 years that I was talking about is having multiple communities to engage with, to talk with about like what it is that's happening internally, what is happening externally, how are these two relating, how is that impacting my work, how is that making me feel. And I think essentially the biggest thing that this community space does for one is to realize that these mental health issues, mental health struggles that all of us are going through, or maybe not even going through to an extreme extent, maybe it's just like the starting point of like something starting to simmer, is not happening to me alone. So I think that is the larger thing that we discover in community space, and that adds to our ways of being able to navigate, because I'm able to ask questions, ask someone else, so how is it working for you, what is it that you're doing, and be able to share what is it that I'm doing. So yeah, I think that this question has been asked for a while outside of the pandemic as well. There has been a shift happening for a couple of years. I have been engaging in conversations like these since 2016 of like skills changing. And I think a lot of them have already been identified. The three things that I was thinking about this question, and the three words, 3 C's that come up for me are collaboration. And I think collaboration looks very different from the current forms of entrepreneurship that we've been teaching, where collaboration becomes a skill as opposed to being the main way of functioning. So I think we have been taught to go with our idea, go with that one idea, make it. So it's been a lot about the self. I think we're going to shift towards the collective. And so that collective skill that will be required there is collaboration. I think the second big skill will be creativity. Just being able to navigate a lot of the new disruptions creatively, to think about different ways to look at the same problem, to think about different ways to solve the same problem, which often creativity is not seen as a skill because it almost feels like it's either there or it's not there. But I do believe that it is a skill that can be sharpened with regular discipline. And I think the third C is care. I think now a big element of this shift is recognizing that we are an interconnected world. What's happening in India is going to affect what's happening in Brazil. What's happening in Brazil is going to affect what's happening in the US. Every little decision is going to impact. I mean, to see the fact that this pandemic literally spread over a month because of some bad decisions or some mismanagement, some lack of communication. So I think this component of being caring, about caring beyond yourself, is going to be a huge skill. I think it is already starting to boom, this idea of social emotional intelligence, of self-awareness, of mindfulness, of kindness. And I think all of that I put together in a C called care. So I think collaboration, creativity, care. Just something that comes to mind when I think about my initial years, months in being in the employed world or the world of work, was that when you step into it, you step in an empty vessel. So the lack of experience and the lack of expertise actually gives you something really beautiful, which is the lack of bias. We're looking at the world through pink tinted glasses and things like this, but I think what we have is an openness. And so I think what I would suggest is that, considering the kind of disruption happening today, and the kind of change happening, if today is when you're entering the job spaces, enter with a presence to the current needs, sense and feel, to understand what is emerging, what are the new needs emerging, as opposed to lying back on what you studied in school or what you think work should look like. Because I think as a fresh graduate, what you have is the ability to act as an empty vessel, and the ability to look at a problem through many different perspectives, because you're not stuck yet in any perspective. You're not stuck in any experience or expertise set. You're not being told that, oh, well, I really look at the financial side. I really look at the tech side. So really, like, being present, being open, and using your lack of experience as a strength rather than a weakness is what I would suggest to anyone entering the job market right now.